So today's class is going to focus on the hips, and I have a feeling that that's going to be the case for the next couple of months while we're in our roots training. Good thing we all need help with our hips, even if we don't know it. And that's sort of going to be the theme of our class today. I think, especially you guys are all experienced yoga practitioners, you've probably found your pelvis, and you're like, oh, this is how I like to do my forward fold, and this is how I like to do my lunges. And I just want to plant the seed that even though you're all perfect and embodied and have so much inner wisdom, that maybe you can experience something new today. Maybe something somewhere can release, something else can come online, and the pelvis might feel different. So open up to the possibility that we're not going to do our poses the way that we've always done them, and you might discover something really new and supportive and exciting. So that's all I'll say, and the rest hopefully will speak for itself. So with that, let's take a turn to the left, extend the legs, and recline. And you can take your time reclining or just get there sooner if that's what you need in your day. And I'll tell you when to hit play on the music if you're following around, but let's just start in silence so that we can feel and witness before adding in more things to notice. So first, just imagine gravity pulling your awareness into your body. Just notice the weight of the body resting on the earth, being supported. And then just start to witness the breath. And as the natural breath flows in and out, try to visualize your rib cage so that you can see how it opens and expands naturally with the inhale. And then that process reverses on the exhale. Perhaps you can witness the back of the rib cage just ever so gently pressing, grounding, expanding. And then softening. And then notice how the breath overflows beyond the rib cage into the space of the diaphragm, interacting with the abdomen. You don't have to take the breath, you don't have to fill the belly. Just watch that gentle expansion. And oftentimes it's easier to feel the front of the breath. And just bring some awareness to the backside of the rib cage, diaphragm, low back, and notice the gentle sensations that awaken there with the breath. And as the breath draws your focus more and more into the present moment and into the physical body, notice if there's just any areas that are becoming more apparent. Areas of tightness, areas of stagnation, or areas of expansion and lightness. And just allow the breath to be this vehicle of equanimity, just gently soothing all areas evenly and fully. As the breath gets more and more natural and you're able to ease into it more fully, allow any areas in the neck and the shoulder and the jaw and the low back to soften, and perhaps there's a little wiggle that can help that. You don't have to be still here. And if you're following along with the music, you can hit play on the first track and see if you can witness the breath even as you move through space. Pick up your phone or whatever's playing the music. Can you And for those of you following on later, the first song on the playlist is Through Rocks and Fog. And just make your way back to this comfortable position and start by gently wiggling the fingers and the toes. And just notice those gentle sensations. Imagine running your hands through warm sand. Like, notice how the tactile quality changes as you envision the hands and feet just gently gliding through this interesting surface. And then allow the hands to rest and slowly start to point and flex the feet. And let this be really gentle so there's not too much muscular exertion. We really just want to explore the heels without the calves and feet getting too tired. So you can circle the feet, you can point and flex, but just start to notice the sensation on the heels. As you do this, you might feel compelled to walk the heels a little wider, a little narrower. Give yourself permission to adjust the more sensation is awakened in the body. And then ever so gently drag one heel at a time towards your sit bones, preparing for a bridge setup. So soles of the feet come to the ground, and just walk the feet a little wider, a little forward, and notice how the foot placement affects the sensation in the knees. So just try to find a place where the knees are completely relaxed and they feel safe and at ease. And then gently start to push into the feet without lifting anything, but just notice the energy in the legs. As you push down into the feet, you may feel calves engage, muscles around the knees and the thighs, and notice if the sacrum just gets a little lighter, almost weightless, but you're not lifting it. And then release that. Just do that a couple of times and give yourself permission to allow the feet to adjust. Each time the sacrum is placed down, maybe you learn something about your knees. And the body knows what to do, so you don't have to think about it. Just give yourself that permission to keep walking the feet around, and you'll know when you find a space that's really supportive. The next time the pelvis releases, reach the arms towards the heels, let the shoulders ground, and just start to ever so gently tuck the tailbone so the low back flattens onto the mat, pelvic tilt, and then release it back down. We're going to do this a few times, and so just repeat in your own pace. So as the tailbone tucks, you'll notice the sits bones just gently reaching towards the knees and the front of the hip subtly activating. So just try to be aware of that connection. We're going to be playing a lot of things with our quadriceps and our core, and we'll want these muscles on the front of the pelvis to support us. So just try to be aware of them now. You can even place your fingers at the hip crease and just feel the subtle activation as the tailbone tucks towards the knees. The front of the pelvis ever so gently flattens. And by flattens, I mean there's a crease when the pelvis is on the earth, and so that crease just lengthens out. And now as you continue with this movement, bring your awareness to your quadriceps and imagine reaching the ends of the quadriceps, so the tops of the knees, just gently away from you. And as you do that, notice if the front crease of the hips lengthens even more, and then set the pelvis back down. The next time the pelvis releases, reach the hands back to the heels so they're anchored on the ground once again, and ever so gently repeat that movement without the hands, but this time we'll go a little further. So as the knees reach away from you and the tailbone lengthens towards the knees, start to peel one vertebra away from the floor at a time, and then ever so gently set each vertebra down. And to really feel vertebra by vertebra, you have to move really, really slowly. So be patient and also be compassionate. Sometimes it's hard to articulate a certain area. We'll do this a few times, just rolling up and down, but really trying to articulate one vertebra at a time. It doesn't matter how high the pelvis lifts, or even if there's much of a back bend. We're really just trying to build awareness in each vertebra. And there's sort of a magic that happens when your awareness is actually at the vertebra that's peeling up or being set down. It's like you're jolted into the present moment in a really profound way. See if you can experience that. And then no rushing. But next time the pelvis comes down, you can pause. And again, just bear witness to everything contacting the earth. That sense of the earth rising up to meet you and support you. Snow angel, the arms overhead, nice and slow so you can feel each degree of the circle. And then extend the legs long. And we'll start with the same core exercise from last week. So if you know it, you can do it at your own pace. Otherwise, follow along with me. Glide, heels in, bend, knees and elbows slowly curling up to touch. And then extend the legs and reach the fingertips up the calves. Reverse that, so soles of feet down, elbows down, and then gently let the knees open and the palms open, almost like you're holding two platters. Extend the legs, reach overhead, and repeat at your own pace, curling up, sliding, and then everything gently externally rotates and extends. And the next time you're extended, pause, reach fingers and toes apart, and then glide the heels in, hands down, just like the bridge setup we were in before. Keep the right foot anchored and start to kick the left leg overhead and then let it come back down. And let it be really springy and like, yeah, you guys are so good at that. Yeah, just notice how natural this is. You don't have to tell the leg how far to go, and Feel that sense of elasticity. Oh, yay. Yeah, good job. And now we'll add on. So the next time the foot comes down, press up into bridge. And then release one vertebra at a time and allow the leg to extend back up to the sky. So you're just playing between those two shapes with that bit of elastic recoil. So as the hips come down, the leg just springs up effortlessly. And the next time the leg is up, slowly extend it away from you, lengthening it all the way down to the ground. Extend the right leg, reach arms overhead, and point the left toes, cross them over the right leg, and slowly roll over the right side of the body. Let the left leg extend off to the side, just like last week where it's at that 45-degree angle. And glide the hands alongside the body until they're pointed away from you, and peel the spine up one vertebra at a time and really reach the arms away. So there's a sense of almost being like a boat skimming the surface of the ocean. Circle the arms forward, recline the head, and repeat that. So back circle with the arms, adding in cobra when the hands are reaching towards the legs. The next time you're reaching the hands up and you're in the back bend, start to lift the right leg and then lower it back down. And then the next time you lift it, allow the whole front of the right hip to open. So imagine it's not the muscles on the back of the leg lifting you, it's the muscles on the front of the leg lengthening, so that the back can bend and the leg can lift. And then release the right foot down, hands underneath the shoulders. Keep the left foot at the angle and gently press back, keeping the left leg out, hips all the way to the heels, and just melt the forehead for a moment. Push down into the right shin, tuck the right toes under, glide the hands back in that same back circle, rolling up to kneeling Parigasana. And then release the hands down to tabletop and start to glide the left foot away from you and back in. And this has been my new favorite exercise to turn on the hip adductors. And so just notice the inner leg line of the extended leg. And as the leg drags in, notice how that musculature connects into the core. So you can really feel that integration beyond just the leg. And the next time it pulls in, keep all that core activation. We're going to roll up one more time, and just notice if you can use that to lengthen up a little bit more and feel more support on the front of the body as you extend through just a little back bend. And then arms to T, left foot in front of the right, our slackline lunge, and the heel can even line up with the front of the knee. I find that that makes it harder, and we want it to be hard, so our hips get very smart and help us balance, but find that place where it's fun and not just annoying and frustrating. And if it's too easy, close your eyes or take your arms out of it because they're helping a lot, or take the back foot out of it by flattening the top of the back foot down. And then we're going to change this a little bit from last week so you have more support standing up. So slowly start to twist into the front leg and just notice how that stabilizes you. And if it doesn't, slide the left foot forward a little bit so you feel more stable for the transition. Feel the muscles on the left side of the hip, leg, and core anchoring. And then slowly start to push into the left leg and float the right knee up as weightlessly as possible. Great. And then dramatically drag the right leg forward to meet the left, and let the heels drop, and just pause for a moment. Release the hands down. Scan the left side of the body. We've done some interesting things on the left side, so you might notice tingling, spaciousness. Just observe. And for this first round, we're going to do a little bit of an experiment. So you can face me for a moment. This is something that I noticed in our teacher training, and I'm really excited for us to work on together. So as yogis, we've gotten so good at extending through the hamstrings and keeping a flat back. I've seen you all can do it very well. And a lot of times that makes our low backs really tight and our hamstrings really long. So now we're going to reverse everything that we've trained. And we're going to actually really play with keeping the pelvis heavy and allowing the spine to round. And so we'll take a few rounds of this, and I'll talk you through it, but it's going to feel different. It's going to feel like almost like, wait, this is what we're not supposed to do. So just open up and see what you can learn about your body right now. So pelvis really heavy. Visualize the sit bones pointing down towards the heels. You can bend the knees a little bit. And then just like our bridge pose, we'll start to walk down the vertebra one at a time. So let the head get heavy. Bring your awareness to the vertebra of the neck, and slowly one at a time. And really try to do this. It's not just like an idea. You can do it. You can feel one vertebra at a time. Let the pelvis stay heavy, and I find I have to bend my knees a little bit, otherwise I'll tip forward too much. And you might notice this point where the bottom of the pelvis stays heavy, the spine's leaning forward, so the core really has to turn on a lot, especially the low abdominals, and this can help us find a little extra space in the low back. When you hit the bottom, let the sits bones get really heavy. Gently push the pelvis forward, and notice how that helps the sit bones stay down as you stack one vertebra at a time. And then do this as many times as you want on your own, but move really slow. So it might just be one more time, and I'm just going to observe because I know it's a tricky movement, and be really patient with yourself. Of course, make sure there's no pain, but really try to bring awareness to the sits bones, and you can even do this. This is something only you can do for yourself. But as you're in the forward fold, you can even bring your hands to your sits bones to get a sense of whether they're pointed down, or, this is what we always love to do, right? Like fan them up towards the sky. So if your hands are way up here, pull the sits bones down and just notice how that changes. Yeah, even sometimes just having sensation on the back of the legs and the sits bones can just help there be a little more support there. The next time you rise back up, pause in Tadasana, and again, just let those sits bones get heavy. Scan the back, make sure there's no tension or tightness, and if there is, you can just wiggle. Let's all wiggle a little bit. So, jello, wobble, nice and easy and soothing. And then step the feet a little wider and step forward enough because eventually we're going to bring the hips down and lay back. So you want to be past halfway. And we'll come through Malasana, but we want to keep moving so it's not too intense in the hips. So let the feet be nice and wide and bring your awareness back to those sit bones, unless it was still there because you were just so interested. And similar sensation, the sits bones are coming towards the heels. Right? The quads are going to be working quite hard as you shift from side to side. You can let the arms swing and let the hips get lower and lower, and you can always support yourself. So hands can come in front, and it can be more of a forward fold. You can stay lifted if that's comfortable. Hands can also come behind you. And so we'll just take another moment to explore these gentle shifts of the legs, and then eventually just bring the pelvis down. Extend the legs in front of you. Bend the knees generously so you can release forward. Bring awareness to that low back that we were really trying to let lengthen and soften and even round a little bit. And then kick into the heels so the whole body unfurls and you can find your way all the way onto the back. Okay. So now we're back at the beginning, but flipped around, hopefully. And we'll go through that same sequence, but maybe a little bit faster through some of the really long explorations. So let's begin with our core exercise. Circle arms overhead, bend knees and elbows, drawing them to touch, and then glide the hands up and slowly release that all down, opening knees and elbows and big circle with the arms and legs back to the beginning. 2 more on your own. And then bend the knees, hands down by the hips, bridge prep pose, and extend the right leg and just take a few of those really fun kicks that you guys are all so good at. Give yourself permission to kick the foot in any direction that you want. So it could be straight up to the ceiling. It could also be a little closer to the face if that is enjoyable and doesn't feel too intense. And now we'll add in the bridge. So the next time the foot comes down, push into hands, shoulders, and feet to gently open the front of the pelvis. And again, notice that straight line from the knees to the pelvis and beyond to the ribs. And then set everything back down. Leg just bounces right up. And now take your time playing with those 2 movements and still try to observe 1 vertebra at a time, but maybe as that becomes more familiar, the speed might change. And the next time the hips are down, pause, circle the arms overhead, extend the legs, point the right toes and slowly cross the right leg over the left, rolling slowly over the left side of the body. And then back circle with the arms right into that cobra. And do it just 1 more time and then hold cobra and start to play with lengthening the whole front of the left side of the body. So as that lengthens, the left leg will lift in an effortless way, right? So you don't feel just one muscle turning on, just this even expansion, the whole body. And just take some pulses with that. If you ever need to set your head down, you can absolutely do that, whatever helps you enjoy this. And the next time the foot comes down, place the hands at the wide part of the ribs. Gently press the hips back to the heels. Tuck the left toes under. Bow the forehead. Push down into the left knee to slowly rise up. Back circle with the arms, letting the whole front of the body open all the way down to the front of that left knee. And then release the hands down to tabletop and let the right leg start to slide in and out. And try to go for a sense of control rather than like, how far can I go with the right leg? Feel safe, feel like you could draw it at any point, right? If you go too far, it's almost like impossible to drag back in comfortably. And the next time the right leg drags back and feel that strength integrating all the way up the core. Push down and use that strength to open the front of the body, hands circle back, and just notice if you've got enough support in the front of the body to comfortably bend back a little bit with lots of length in the low back, keeping those sits bones dropped towards the earth. And then arms to T, right heel in front of the left knee for the slackline lunge, which might be already feeling a little easier with having more awareness in both hip sockets. Make it harder by closing the eyes or fingertips to ears, or actually throwing off your balance so you have to re-find it. And then start to twist into the right leg. Option to slide the right leg forward any amount to find stability. And once you feel strong, almost like a crunch, start to push into the right leg, hover the left foot, and then drag the left foot to meet the right. And just pause for a moment in Tadasana, drop the arms, scan the right side of the body. Notice any sense of new warmth. And we're going to do a different exercise here. So you're free to turn and face me. We're going to be playing with momentum a little bit. And so as we bend the knees, we'll roll up and reach up. And then we'll repeat that same thing, but on the second round, we'll circle the arms wide. So I'm going to show it from 2 angles. And don't worry about going very far into the forward fold. It's almost like a hollowing out, like a hollow body, right, rather than a forward fold. And then this is really the moment that we're working for, this opening of the front of the body. And so whenever, we'll start with the hollow body. So bend the knees, sits bones dropping towards the heels like we did before. Circle the arms forward, and as the arms press forward, let the abdomen suck in towards the back of the body. And then reverse that motion, and as the hips draw forward, push down into the heels, and let that send an impulse through the whole front of the body. Yeah, it's kind of like magic. And then repeat that. So bend the knees, circle forward, hollow body. And then reverse that, push into the heels, and let that almost like volcano the arms overhead. And then it reverses, so the hands drop through center into those circles. And start to play with this on your own, and release any sense of wanting to go deeper into the forward fold or the back bend, because it really can be a little stressful on the low back. We want it to just be this natural wave that travels up the heels, up the legs, all the way up the spine. Yeah, and you kind of have to find your... If you've already got it, keep going and ignore me, but I'm noticing, like, yeah, Davy, from center, the arms circle forward, and then they reverse as you push down, and that's what sends them up the middle. But if you're feeling the impulse, it's okay if it looks different than me. And the next time the arms reach up and the whole front of the body opens, pause there for a moment and just push a little extra into the heels. Let the sits bones be heavy. So there is a tendency for this to happen, right? We love arching our low back. And so just let the pelvis be really neutral so the low back is soft. There's no tension there. And that might mean you're in less of a back bend than you're used to, and that's okay. And then slowly equalize the weight in the feet and let that help you recenter. Drop the arms. We go back into our Malasana. So if you need to adjust by stepping forward so you've got enough room to recline eventually, and start shifting weight from side to side, letting the sits bones get really heavy, letting them take you towards the earth. And it's okay for the heels to lift, it's okay for the toes to lift. Just make sure the knees feel supported, and that might mean not coming so low or using the hands. And then eventually bring the hips all the way down, extend the legs in front of you, pause for a moment, and just push down into the sits bones and allow the spine to lengthen either up or back a little bit if that feels better. And then bend the knees, melt forward, and similarly to that exercise we were just doing, push into the heels and let the whole body just notice what it wants to do and then do that. Yeah, you got it. So you recline all the way on to the back. And we're in between vinyasas, so if you want a sip of water, you're welcome to. And we'll go to the next track. And the next track is Human Theory. Okay, so if you've got space to the left side, you might want to look up here really fast because it'll be hard to see when you're laying down completely. We did leg kicks like this, and we'll play with letting the leg kick out to the side. I'm going to show you with the inside leg so you can see it better, but it's the outside leg that we're playing with. So just like we were doing before, but now we'll play with a different angle if you've got room. And if you don't have room to your side, you can keep benefiting from the straight up and down or maybe 45-degree angle. And so from the back, reach arms overhead, wiggle fingers and toes, and take a moment to just trace the pathway of the spine with your awareness, with your breath. Notice the sacrum, notice the sits bones. Again, here the sits bones can point gently towards the heels, just by letting the front of the hips open a little bit more. And then start to drag the heels in, point hands towards feet, and just take one bridge pose, nice and slow, letting the front of the hips open. And again, just notice the sits bones reaching up towards the knees. And that happens as the hamstrings tighten and shorten. And to add that in a little bit more, without moving, just drag the heels back towards you and notice how that engages the back of the hips and the back of the legs a little bit more. And then set one vertebra down at a time. Extend arms and legs, and we go into the core exercise. So bend and knees and elbows, roll up, slide up the legs, and then drop everything down, externally rotating and kicking back to the beginning. 2 more times on your own. And the next time everything's extended, glide the heels in. Hands can come down by the hips and start to bounce the left leg up right into the bridge. Just take a couple of pulses like that. And the next time the hips are down, extend the left leg and now kick it out to the side. And it might not go very far depending on your external rotation, but same action, right? The leg kicks out and then it kicks in, and you can lift to bridge and then kick the leg out to the side. And you're welcome to explore a little. You can kick at different angles, but kicking out to the side and kicking up to the ceiling have been my favorite. The next time the leg extends out to the side, bend the knee for half buttock Konasana, and then extend the right leg so you're in fallen tree for a moment. And just let the front of that left hip open and externally rotate. Circle the arms overhead and gently flex the left foot and kick out through the left heel. So the dragging of the heel against the mat really activates the back of the leg as the leg extends. And then cross the left leg over, slowly rolling over the right side. Drag the hands back into flying cobra and then add the right leg in. So lengthen the right leg back. And you can either hold it or take a couple of pulses, letting the leg lift and lower. The next time the leg lowers, bring the hands to the widest part of the ribs and gently press the hips all the way back into your wide Bhaktasana. Push down into the knee, tuck the toes under, and slowly roll all the way up with that backstroke of the arms. And then hands back down. And we're going to add on here. And if it's too much for your hip, you can stick with those leg slides. Those are awesome. You can still get lots of benefit. Otherwise, try lifting the left leg. Take a couple of pulses there. If that's going okay, you can make some circles with the leg. So lift it and then circle it back and then keep it nice and low as it comes forward. And just take a few circles, really warming up the outside of the left hip. And the next time the leg comes back to where it began, slowly roll up into Parigasana, back circle of the arms. And then we'll just add in a nice side bend. So drop the left hand, let the whole right side lengthen, sliding over the left leg. And then push down into the foot and the knee to control your way back to neutral and step the left foot in front of the right. Take a moment to balance. And then shift the weight back so the left heel has a lot of support. Start to twist into the left leg and slowly extend the left leg, lift the right knee, and let everything inflate all the way up in a gentle twist. And then shift the weight into the front leg, arms to T, squaring to the short edge of the mat, and just let the right leg swing a few times. And then let the swing get smaller and smaller so it starts to feel like almost like a natural step forward without it trying very hard. The next time the leg gently swings forward, set the heel down. So it's a really short, really short Veerabhadrasana 1, just to begin. We're going to play with what I've been calling inverse warrior, right? Because normally the front knee bends and the back leg is straight. We're going to bend the back knee and keep the front leg straight. Bring the hands to the front of the pelvis and start to play with that. And depending on your knees, you might have a lot more space to step that left foot back, or you might want to keep the stance pretty small so that the flexion in the ankle is totally comfortable in the knee and the hip. And just like we've talked about, we really want the sits bones to point towards the knee here, so there's a sense of the front of the body staying quite flat. And just take a few shifts and give yourself permission to explore the placement of the feet until you find something that's supportive, but still interesting. Nice. The next time the weight shifts into the back heel, bend the left knee a little bit more, bring more weight on the heel, and see if you can lean back a little bit more so that you've got this straighter line from the front heel up to the front hip, all the way up to the shoulders. Yeah, just try coming back up. There's a lot of this happening, and I'm wondering maybe the stance is a little big. Something to get that low back lengthening. As long as it's not painful, but so now we're going to play with a little bit of momentum. And so the next time the back knee bends, start to let the hands glide up just like we did with our legs together before. We played between these two shapes. We're going to do that here. So as the weight shifts back, the hands reach up. And then as the weight shifts forward, the arms circle forward. And see if you can find that same sense of momentum traveling all the way up the left leg and carrying you all the way into the heart and the arms, expanding upward. And it's not a very dramatic movement, right? The hips are really supporting you more than anything. And the next time everything reaches up, pause there, and again, let the low back really lengthen so that there's no pressure in the low back. And then circle the arms forward, shift the weight forward, and let the back leg glide along the mat until it lifts into a little Veerabhadrasana 3. And then swing the arms back and the leg forward and play with that a couple of times. Find a drishti, because it is really a tricky balance. Nice. And the next time you're in Veera 3, pause there, reach the arms back this time, and then let the leg swing forward. And try that a couple of times just to bring some more stability to the pelvis. And the next time the leg comes back, set it down and go back to that initial shape. So you just have a moment of letting the front of the hip open and then circle forward to Veera 3. And so it's up to you. You can keep the back foot on the ground, or you can start to lift it as a part of that original sequence. And just check in with the low back. And the next time you circle forward, pause there, reach the arms overhead, kick through the left heel, lengthening. Let the right hip support you. And then bend the right knee a little bit so the toes can come down in like a long lunge. Slowly shift weight into the back foot and reach up into the right so that you really feel the left side of your body lengthen. And then let all of that shorten as you turn the feet and bring the hands all the way down towards the left foot. Let the right heel spin up and slide the left foot back to three-legged dog. And then swing the left knee forward into pigeon. Let the hips gently sway from side to side. And then just for a little extra psoas release, walk the hands in front of the left knee, push into the left leg, and swing the right leg forward into a lunge. And let the hips lower towards the earth. Slow hula hoops. And really let the hips relax here and melt. And try to feel the front of the left hip softening. And then walk the hands back. Slowly glide the right leg back in a big circle until you can return to that pigeon. Push down into the left shin. Let the sits bones drop and drag the hands back in a big circle for a lifted pigeon. And then release the hands down, shift the weight into the left hip, and let the right leg swing forward. And we're going to repeat that a few times. I guess I'm really into swinging the legs in this class. So we'll open into our pigeon with our back circle, and then release the hip and swing the leg. And just keep checking in with the low back. It doesn't need to be a deep back bend. You just want to make sure those muscles of the low back are not getting tight. The next time the leg swings forward, pause there, point it off to the side, and just take a little melt over the right leg. And then stack the right knee on top of the left. Scoot your hips into the center of the mat and forward. And slowly recline the left arm. Pause for a moment on your side. Notice your heartbeat. And then make a big circle with the right arm overhead and roll onto the back. And just pause on the back for a moment. And we'll repeat that on the second side. And of course, you can always add, subtract, move on as you remember things. When you're ready, start with circling the arms overhead. Just gentle wiggle, fingers and toes, and just try to bring awareness to all the space between the hands and the feet. Drag heels in, hands reach towards the heels. Gently start to lift. Let the front of the hips open. Reach the knees away from you. Let the front of the hips flatten. And then set one vertebra down at a time. Hands circle overhead. Legs slowly extend. And then we go into our core, circling, sliding up and circling open. We'll just do one more of those. And then drag the heels in, hands down by the hips, and start by kicking the right leg up, and then setting the right foot down, lifting the hips, and then lowering. You can play there, or you can start to add in different angles with the right leg. Just make sure there's no tension when you do that. So off at a 45-degree angle, or if there's room on the floor behind you, can slide all the way on the floor like the hands of a clock. And the next time the hips are up, slowly, consciously lower down, vertebra by vertebra. Extend arms and legs, point the right toes, and slowly cross them over. Roll over the side, and let the right leg lead. So really lengthen out through the right toes, and let that pull you over to the belly. Circle the arms back, lifting into your flying cobra, and then add the left leg in. Can take pulses, or you can hold. Make sure you can breathe. Let the breath help you find more buoyancy here. And then set the left foot down, hands to the wide part of the ribs. Shift back, tuck left toes under. Push down to slowly rise up. Circle the arms back. And then set the hands down. And you've got your two options, either sliding the leg out or play with starting to lift the right leg. Make sure that's okay on the outside of the right hip. And then we add in the circle. So as the right leg lifts, and you can start to circle it back and then lower it down just to graze the floor as you bring it forward again. And notice the stabilizing hip. So the left hip, it's not even moving, but it's working quite hard as you circle the right foot. Or at least mine is. The next time the right foot comes out to the side, push down to rise up into the back circle, Parigasana, and then we'll add the side bend in. So drop the right hand to the thigh and slowly lengthen the left side as if you were trying to reach up and over the right foot. Keep breathing. And then push down into the left knee and the right foot and let the left side of the body shorten. Arms to T, right leg in front. As you get more stable here, play with closing the eyes. Play with taking the hands out of it. And just notice that wobbling and the body figuring it out, trying to find balance as if you were on a slack line. Maybe you'll be better at the slack line after this. And then release the hands. Start to send the hips back so the weight's in the front heel. Twist to the right. And then slowly start to extend and lift up, putting more weight in the right leg, coming up into a twist. And then shift the weight into the right leg and let the left leg swing forward and back freely. You can let the hands work with the leg in whichever way is natural. I like opposite hand and leg. And then let the swing get nice and small and natural, like the leg's just swinging forward to take a step. And then let the foot step forward. So really short stance. And we start to play with bending the right knee and leaning back, right? And notice that line, shoulder, hip, and knee. Yeah, good. And then give yourself permission, depending on what your quad feels like and what the flexion in your ankle feels like. This can get a little bit bigger. We're trying to sync up the connection between the quads into the core. So there's really a lot of support here. Good, Jess. This side looks like a lot more neutral in the pelvis. So you figured it out. And then we'll start to add in the arms. So the next time you lean back, let the arms volcano up. And then release forward and circle the arms forward. And just play forward and back. And then as you have a bigger rocking motion, it's okay to let the feet step apart as long as that doesn't strain the low back or the quad. So because this might be a new movement for you, take it easy until it feels familiar. The next time you circle forward, reach the arms forward and then drag the foot along the mat to lengthen it back into Vira 3. And then swing arms back and legs forward and take a couple of leg swings here. And the next time the leg swings back, reach the arms back this time. Pause. And then set the foot back down. bend the back knee, and reach the arms up. And so now you have the choice as you play forward and back if you want the back leg to stay down or if you want to take flight. And maybe it's like a couple of bounces with the back foot down, and then you want a little bit more. And you take flight, and then you add the leg swing. And pause, arms back. Arms back as you transition to bringing the back foot down, so when the back knee bends, you can shoot arms up again. So just take a moment to continue to explore and bring all your awareness to the front of the pelvis. And just notice that sense of support coming from the front of the body as you lean back. The next time you reach forward into Veerabhadrasana 3, pause. Can bounce a couple of times. Enjoy your Veera 3 with your stable hips. And then bend the left knee, bring the right toes down, reach up and over to the left so the whole right side of the body lengthens, and then shorten it so you reach down to the right, turning the feet, planting the hands by the right foot, and glide the right foot back into 3-legged down dog. And then bring the right knee in to pigeon. And just to release the hip flexor, we'll push into the right knee and step the left foot forward, really traveling along our mat. And then hands down inside the left foot, and you take your nice, slow, maybe big, maybe small circles. And imagine the pelvis really heavy here, like it wants to drip towards the ground. And try having both hands inside of the foot, so the left foot might need to walk over to the left a little bit more, and just notice if that gives you some more space. And then walk the hands back towards the knee, and slowly circle the left foot back into pigeon. Back circle the arms lifting up, and then shift the weight into the right hip and let the left leg swing. And then play there for a moment. So we've got a moment of deep extension in the front of the left hip. And then we let that all close for a moment before we go back. Okay. And take a moment in pigeon. And then shift the weight onto the right hip. Slide the left foot forward halfway, so you've kind of got like the number 4 with your legs. And then just gently release over the left leg. And so instead of reclining again, we've got a few experiments because we've been doing lots of interesting things with the front of the right hips. And so the blanket might be handy here. From kneeling, this is not going to be camel. It's going to be a little different. We're going to play with like these zombie crunches where that's not a good name. That's just what came out. Where the shoulders, hips, and knees stay in a straight line. The toes can be tucked under. And you're really lengthening through the front of the body, letting the quads and the front of the hips support you. And so you can just play, and it might be just a couple of degrees, or maybe you do feel enough support to go a little deeper. Nice. And it doesn't have to be intense, but really try to keep the tailbone heavy so you can bring your hands to the front of the pelvis and keep the front of the pelvis flat, right? So that the hips aren't being sent back, but you're keeping that. Yeah, you can even feel those muscles just subtly engage under the fingertips. And then from kneeling, we will have an option to actually, let's just go for it. Let's go for it now. You can move the blanket out of the way. And we're going to let the front of the body open. And this isn't a pose that I normally teach, but it's really been benefiting my personal practice. So if it feels scary or it doesn't feel good, I'm going to give you options. You sort of have to be in charge of your own body, but I hope that we find an option that's really useful for letting that front of the hip release. So the first way is going to be extend one leg. You can all try this with me, and then you can decide to up level or not. Bend the right knee. This is like a half Vadrasana. So the right foot's underneath the right hip, and just start by bringing the hands back and take a moment to lift the hip, and again find that straight line from shoulder, hip to knee. Really guide the right knee forward. And then if that's feeling safe and comfortable and you're not feeling any pressure in the low back, you really have that length, you can start to lower the elbows and do the same thing. Make sure you can still breathe and smile. And so this is probably going to be a stopping point for a lot of people, and that's okay. You can take this, and then as you're ready, go to the other side. If this is feeling great and you're like, no, I got this, like the front of your knees down, there's no tension anywhere, then you can play with lowering, and you'll notice the front of my knee is lifted, and then to deepen it, I lengthen the front of my knee forward, right? And again, you don't want this to feel too intense in the knee or the low back or anywhere, but those are probably the areas that will do it. But if you have a tight hip flexors, this is a really nice way to start to get some more length in the front of the pelvis. And so to come out of it, prop your elbows up beneath you, push into the elbows, guide the hands back till you're in that initial spot, and then you can do the other side. If that felt like very accessible and not scary, and you're like, more, I want more, instead of doing it on the left side only, you can do it with both legs underneath. But I would probably recommend, if you're new to this pose, stick to one side at a time, and then as it becomes more familiar, then you can try the double-legged version. I also like the feet underneath instead of out to the side, so that the knees continue to point forward, but you get really deep opening in the quadriceps, even all the way into the psoas. Sometimes you can feel the opening beyond the hip into the core. Make sure you're breathing, and it's not about going into your deepest stretch, but rather feeling and letting things open with the breath. And then when you feel like you've balanced out sides, you can gently push into the elbows and then the hands to come back up. And so now we'll do another hip exercise, but very different. So don't worry, you'll get a break from that. And this is where you might want the blanket. If you've got a wood floor, that's awesome. I don't. So the blanket for me is so I can literally slide my knee, because I can't slide my knee on the carpet, but I can slide my knee on the blanket. If you've got a wood floor, the blanket itself might actually slide. And I'll talk you into the positioning of the feet and the knees and the hips, but we're going to play with a safer version of Mandukasana, frog pose. So with the blanket, maybe about a foot away from the mat, come to tabletop, bring the inside knee to the mat for cushioning, and then the other knee to the blanket so it can slide. And then slowly allow the knee to slide along the blanket so that the hips open, but you still feel control, like you're not dumping down and letting gravity take over. So find that edge where it's interesting but not too intense, and then recenter your hands. And then just play with shifting the hips forward and back a little. Shifting them back is usually when it gets a little more intense. And again, you don't want like any like shooting pain or anything that feels like you're at your end range of motion. Make sure you can breathe. And then find somewhere in the middle. So it's not like as far back as the hips can go, but halfway. And then start by lifting one leg at a time. And so as you lift the leg, it turns the thigh bone into internal rotation. And so it's kind of like windshield wipering. And I have found this to be the most comfortable and safest way to get a deep release in Mandukasana without just like, dumping my hips all the way down to the ground. Keep breathing. You can also lower to forearms, especially if the wrists are tired. Sort of fun. And move nice and slow so you can feel the articulation of the femur in the hip socket. And then pause for a moment with both feet down and just gently press hips forward and back a little bit. Stay with the breath. And then slowly walk hands underneath shoulders. Shift the weight into the inside knee. Extend the leg that's on the blanket. Then bring it onto the mat. Lower the hips. And just take a moment with the legs extended in front of you, sitting up tall. Place the hands behind you. And just gently wiggle the hips from side to side. Imagine anything tight, just gently readjusting and releasing. And then plant the hands behind you. We're going to activate the front of the hips one final time. So you've got a couple of options. You can take a reverse plank or a reverse table or one more bridge pose. So depending on what your shoulders want, just let the front of the hips open one more time. I see a lot of reverse planks, so I have to show you my favorite reverse plank way. So from seated, bend the knees, release forward, and then kick into the heels. So there's this wave of the spine. And then the next time you do it, plant the hands and let that wave take you right into the reverse plank. And you're welcome to repeat that a couple of times. Nice. Right? It's like the pose just does itself for you. And then release the hips down and pause. Slowly recline, one vertebra at a time. And just bring your awareness to the pelvis, the sacrum, the front of the hips, and just notice any sense of space there. And I felt the need to recline in my body to balance all of that, but the annoying thing is we are going to sit back up and meditate. But let's just take a moment here to feel and to settle and let everything succumb to gravity. And then as you're ready, you can gently press yourself to a comfortable seat. Take a sip of water. Pause your music. And I'm really feeling compelled to do a walking meditation so that you can keep your hips moving before we rest completely. So eventually come to standing, but you don't need to rush. So I know we don't have a lot of space, and so our walking will be pretty slow and small, but instead of it being this like serious thing where the arms are really rigid, we've done so much like swinging and natural movement of the legs, that as we walk, I want it to feel free, you know? I felt like Mr. Rogers as I did that. And so let it be really small. Remember how small our inverse warrior was. Those little steps. And gentle weight shifts. Can you please pause the music? And start to feel aware of your whole body. As if you're watching your body walk across your room, and turn, as you need to. And allow each leg to naturally swing. And the opposite arm reaches forward. We'll just take a moment to find a comfortable rhythm where you can observe. You don't have to think. It's pretty natural and fluid. And we'll start to bring our mantra to our movement. And so each step will be a repetition of a syllable. And we'll use the mantra hum sa. And so I guess you get to choose if right foot is hum or left, but it will always be the same, right? Right foot steps one syllable, left foot steps other. And the breath can be natural, but notice if the movement starts to naturally want to sync with the breath. And if you've found a pace that's working great for you, you can stay at that pace. I'm starting to feel inspired to slow down a little, just so that I can feel more and focus more. And the priority is observing your breath and your mantra. But after all of our movement practice, focusing on the hips, maybe you also notice sensation, the pelvis supporting you, any sense of balance in the front and the back, the hips. The gaze can be really soft, just ahead of you, a few feet. And we have 3 minutes left to this section of class. So you're welcome to continue walking. You're also welcome to try standing still for a moment or coming to seated. It's totally up to you. And just the thing that stays steady is the breath and the mantra. The body can change. And if you haven't already found stillness, either standing or seated, take a moment now. If you're standing, bring a little extra awareness and weight into the heels. Let the sits bones be heavy. And just notice sensation in the legs, hips, and spine. Continue with your practice. And can make your way to seated any way you like. You're welcome to do the shifting Malasana as one way to get there. And you're welcome to pause at seated or make your way all the way onto your back. On your own time, of course. And some of the work we've done might be a little new in the body. And so as you come to the back, just do a little scan and notice if the body is craving anything. Oh, that's a good idea. Roseanne has her legs up. Giving the legs a little shake can be really nourishing. So we've got 10 minutes to rest, either in our seated position or Shavasana, and wherever you are, this is an opportunity to really let go of any physical clenching, any holding on to thoughts. And just let the body and the mind soften. In a recent satsang, Babaji said that the reality inside of us is more vast than the reality outside of us. So as you relax the body and relax the mind, Notice any sense of inner spaciousness that naturally emerges. It's always there, but as we soften, we allow it to come into the forefront of our experience. And we'll just rest in this spacious state for the next several minutes. And first, observe your body as a whole. And notice your natural, easeful breath. And notice any sense of calm or joy, whatever is naturally emerging from this very receptive space you've cultivated. And keep your awareness on that as you start to move up to seated. And we'll all meet with hands at heart center. And thank you so much for practicing. Namaste. So good to see you all. Alice, Anjali, Yadevi, Jess, Jamie, Roseanne, Noemi, Diana, and Tammy. Thank you for coming. And I know we did a lot of sort of like annoying physical therapy like hip things, and I just wanted to share, I've been having some hip issues, and these little exercises in the past like couple months getting ready for our hips training have helped me so much. So I hope that even if they were annoying, they created some nice stability and space, and that your hips feel great. I'm very open to feedback, so if anything worked really well or didn't, feel free to email me. Otherwise, see you soon. Oh yeah, Jamie's quads are activated. You have to do some cool quad poses. Take care, everybody. Oh, good. I'm so glad, Tammy. Take care. Aloha. Good to see you, Yadevi. Oh, I'm glad it wasn't annoying. You know sometimes how those like really nuanced things are kind of like work? I'm glad that it didn't feel that way.
That's why I come to class to work. So it was great.
Oh, yay. You're such a great yogi, and I love getting to see you. Have an awesome week.
You too.
Aloha.